listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, I've already given my opinion this morning, so I won't be giving much of that this one. We're going to be talking to the leaders of the three food banks, Amber Case of Harvest House, Elizabeth Becker, House of Hope, here in Crowley, across the street practically, and Debbie Beeman over at Promises. And what specifically kind of spurred this on is that budget cuts at the federal level, the USDA, has impacted all the way down to Tarrant County and to Johnson County. We're going to talk about what's going on there and also what they're trying to do to try to mitigate this problem and what we can do as a community to make sure that our three food pantries are up and running and stay up and running. Because whatever you read about in the papers, so to speak, about the economy, at the ground level, every time I visit y'all's locations, y'all are doing pretty good business, to say the least. And so it's a sign of the times, I guess. So anyway, I want to run through the sponsors real quick because they make this possible so we can get the word out. And some of these people y'all know. Otto over at, oh goodness, Our Place. Sorry, Otto. I just got choked up thinking about you. Hang on. The fun of live podcasting. Anyway, Our Place, dadgummit, great place to go, great food, great service, as always. I missed that Thursday morning breakfast having my Sunday school meeting while I'm teaching a class, so I'll be up and doing that again in about 6 weeks when the class is over. And we try to solve all the world's problems and don't get very far. And also Gina's Pizza, which what Amber's mentioned, is pretty good neighbor to have, apparently without security cameras they have.
Yes, they help us a lot to track down our illegal dumpers. Yes. So we appreciate that.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
We'll be talking about that dumping problem because I've seen you post it 2 or 3 times. I kind of kid Garrett about it in our B&I meetings, and he said, hey, it's a lot of trouble.
We had it a couple of weeks ago, a full queen-size mattress set.
Yeah.
Well, y'all don't...
Took up all of our dumpster, and then you got to call them out. It costs money, bottom line, because you got to have them come empty it before. But we came back to having box springs and a mattress.
I mean, they just dumped it in your bin. They weren't donating it.
No, it was in the trash. Not we good. Wouldn't have wanted it if they weren't donating. But so trash is where it needed to be. It just didn't need to be in ours.
Yeah. Okay. Well. On to the next sponsor. It's all right. John Williams over at Old Pro Roofing, 817-734-2756. I don't know how y'all feel, but when I get these prognostications of terrible, terrible weather, and we don't get it, I'm kind of disappointed. It's like I got all keyed up for nothing. We're supposed to have all this heavy duty thunder and rain and whatever, and we got jack. But there are areas that did get hit, and John will go to where the work is. They're all over DFW. So 817-734-2756. And Jeff Kelly Realty, 817-781-0546, or at jeff@jeffkellyrealty.com. He's with the Wethington Agency here in town. That's right across the street from y'all, isn't it, Debbie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, we was on the show about a month ago, and we were talking about the real estate business here. And tomorrow I'm going to have Victoria Johnson on, and we're going to talk about the growth issues, also among other issues, the property tax issues, blah, blah, blah. Lots of fun. Anyway, call Jeff if you're looking to move in and around this area. He'll take care of your business for you just right. And after a hard day of house shopping or roofing or whatever else, go to Hotworks for a workout. See, I try to segue like that. Michelle Humphrey has 11 different workouts for y'all. And even if you don't know which one is for you, you tell her what you want to see happen, and she'll pick the one for you so she knows what she's doing. If you're looking to, slim up or increase your core strength or whatever else, she got it all going on. So Hotworks over on John Jones. And our friend Tiffany Griffin, Local Life Magazine, should be out already. It usually comes out right at the first or second day of the month. You've seen it already, huh?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, but because I've been kind of tied up on other things. But Local Life Magazine goes to 30,000 homes, so they've seen it. And a lot of stores have it, while you're perusing or shopping or waiting for your oil to be changed or whatever else. You can read the magazine. So thank you, Tiffany. Also, our friend Cody O'Brien of Burleson Buzz tonight, which is, today is the 7th, they're going to have a city council meeting. and Cody and or a substitute, if you will be there to report on it. Cody just had a child about 2 weeks ago, so y'all remember those fun days. Anyway, local life, the local Burleson Buzz is a good way to get news of what's going on locally. I use their news for the radio announcements I do, so kind of we swap services, so to speak. But it's only $50 a year, $50 a year to subscribe, so it's pretty cheap. Also, Medicare counseling and therapy. This is a new one for y'all.
Yeah,
I don't know if y'all have met Jerry Kavanaugh, but his office is over in that same building that Rio Mambo and the Rim is on the 3rd floor. What Medicare counseling and therapy is that if you're on Medicare and you need counseling and emotional therapy work and whatever else, they can provide it now. And that's what he's there for. So at 817-992-8034, or as I spell out his email, GFCAVANA, so it's GF Kavanaugh at swbell.net, which is kind of a blast from the past. I was kind of kidding him about that when he was on the show about 3 weeks ago. So, but anyway, if you know somebody, if you're on Medicare, if you know somebody on Medicare, he does a lot of work with people that had a loss recently. And when you get, I'll be on Medicare in a couple of years, and I'm about to approach that time of life where, those things happen, right? And so, anyway, so it's good to have around. As far as the charitable stuff, we got several, and we'll talk about it at the end because we had a bunch last Saturday, but we got y'all have got things coming up. So where do we begin? What I read in the paper, what kind of spawned this whole thing was, I read that they had cut the USDA budgets and how it impact the Tarrant County Food Bank was about almost 30% of its food budget. Now, Amber, you said y'all don't deal directly with Tarrant County Food Bank, but the two of y'all do. And but in any case, these cuts are going to have some impact.
Absolutely.
And that concerned me greatly. That's I'll be as political as I can be without getting too over the top, but it really bothers me that the government's going through these wholesale cuts really kind of indiscriminately, and the impact it's having on the people is not so much being regarded. And this is something that's going to affect a lot of people. Have y'all seen in the last month or so, or say 6 weeks or so, a tremendous increase or even a slight increase in terms of traffic in y'all's locations? Y'all just take it away.
Yeah, I would say from February to March, we served, I think, almost 100 more families. And so we typically kind of see that start to trend upwards in March. So yes, we have seen that.
We saw about the same. I think ours that I counted the other day was 102 more. But some of that was cyclical before COVID. That we would see that difference from February to March. But we had not seen it for the last several years, but we did see it this year. Our volume is not going down at all.
No.
We have more and more people. What I have seen a difference in, by about a third, we saw about a third less new clients. And I think what ICE is doing probably had an impact on that.
You think it's because they're afraid that y'all will turn them in?
Absolutely.
Kind of
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But y'all don't do that.
No, we do not do that.
But they're just suspect of every organization that's going to just, you're not legal. You sit over there till while they come and get you.
Yeah, we've actually heard from some of our clients that are coming in. They've asked the receptionist and our intake person if we're a safe place for them to come. And so, our current position is that we see things through a spiritual lens. We're not involved in the political part of it. Now, personally, we may have political views, but as it relates to feeding and clothing people, we do it through the eyes of Jesus and what Jesus would want us to do.
I can't imagine Jesus asking for an ID card at the feeding of the 5,000. Okay, y'all sit over there and wait. Here, I'll feed these others over here. I don't remember that part of Scripture, but I have missed a Sunday school class or two, so I don't know. But it's true though. I've heard that from not just food pantries, but also I talked to other people that have a lot of customers that are very discreet about their citizenship status, shall we say, and their business kind of has gone down because people are afraid that they'll be turned in to ICE. But we should know, and we should tell people that that's not going to happen here.
That's right.
I think that there can be fear in that because Tarrant Area Food Bank sent out an entire letter of step by step what you should do if ICE were to show up. And they had it for the client as well as for the pantry. And I don't want to be involved in those discussions with a client. So we choose not to. If you need guidance, you Google or you contact an attorney as you see fit. But when you come to us, if you say you need food, you're leaving with food. I don't care where you live or where you're from.
Well, I know that Burleson ISD got a lot of criticism because we don't ask status either. And there's some bills in the state legislature right now that would take that away. But basically, if you are a resident of the district, you're going to be taught. And I had kids I knew were not here legally, and they didn't tell me till, sometimes never, but sometimes after they came to trust me or something like that. But you could tell. And I get all the immigration issue, but it's like but for us here on the ground, so to speak, it's a whole another world. It's one thing to make these statements from our nation's capital or whatever else, but when you're the one, there's somebody across the desk from you with a small child and they need groceries, I think the last thing we should ask is, where are you from? But I don't know. There's my opinion for the day. All right, good. All right. But what did they say to deal with this? Basically, just don't bother, or don't ask, don't tell kind of thing?
They talked about needing to see a warrant, what is a valid warrant, and that was probably as detailed as it got, as I remember, Elizabeth, right?
Right.
It was mostly general things. I want to make sure that our volunteers are prepared if somebody comes up and tells them they're with ICE. We're going to ask them to take a seat. We'll offer them a bottle of water, and we're going to get higher-ups who are going to be involved in that. But I don't think that we need to get into discussions with our clients about ICE. That's my personal opinion, so that's how Promises will run it. Because, again, if you come in and say you need food, we might ask you those questions because we do ask your identity, where you live, those in the household, because we run a ministry in addition to the pantry.
Right.
And our ministry needs to know if you've got school-age children for Kids Eat Free, so to speak, or our Thanksgiving meal is done for a certain age group. So we ask some of that, but if you don't want to give it, you just don't get to participate. But as far as food, as far as the pantry, I told them nothing changes. We will give food. I just know that we're not seeing the number of, we'd been averaging 90 to 100, and we only had 64.
You talk about new clients.
Yes.
Okay, but overall, you still, the numbers are still increasing. Because, I talked to our mutual friends in my Sunday school class, like, Cindy Rutledge and Dave Thompson and all the rest, and they're like, we don't have to wonder what to do with our time, because there's a lot going on. And I've been there, and I think all the times I've been there, only once I've ever seen people not standing and waiting.
Yes. And we have a whole lot more now of, I don't know if I'm still in your system. I was here 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they were being able to do better, and now they're struggling again, so they're back.
Right.
So we're seeing a lot of that.
You say my system, you mean like in archives?
Yeah. Well, we have a software system, Pantry Soft.
Oh, okay.
I know that
we
Harvest
use
House uses, and we used to use Charity Tracker or something. So we've used the same one, and it helps you to track your inventory and things like that. And like I said, we can give them food and never even put them in Pantry Soft, but we normally will ask for some of that. Matter of fact, they just sent out something. The USDA has now stated that you cannot, if they don't want to give their address, they don't have to. The form will encourage them to give at least their zip code, but if they refuse to give that, we're supposed to put our address in there instead of theirs. So,
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
yeah, it used to be you had to sign the form. They stopped that, and now they've stopped that you have to put your address in there. They don't require that you have to anymore.
Well, Elizabeth, you say you use USDA or through the food banks and whatever else.
Right.
Has that cut into your ability to keep your shelves stocked? Or is that to come later?
Yeah, I think a lot of things are happening right all at one time. I'm here to tell you that this morning we had very little food, shelf stable food. I had produce and I had frozen food. That seems to be where we're struggling the most. I suspect that the produce will probably diminish with the USDA cut to that one program where funds were allocated to pantries or food banks like Tarrant Area Food Bank, and then they purchased produce from local farmers and then in turn distributed that to places like Our Promises and Crowley House of Hope. So I suspect very shortly we'll see that produce greatly diminish.
But see, it's not like y'all operate isolated silos, so to speak. I mean, if y'all having trouble, they come to you, right, Amber?
Right.
And so whatever hardships one of you faces eventually will kind of bleed over into the other organizations as well.
Absolutely.
And that's what, even though if you're not using the food bank, if they're not able to help, they're going to come to you, and it's going to put pressure on your inventory, so to speak.
Yes, that's accurate. I think that we share a lot of the same clients. And so the pressure that they're going to see is going to come over to us. I mean, and our numbers we were down in January and February, which is normal for us. But they've started increasing again. And as they kind of spoke to, we've seen a different variety of people. We've seen more middle class people, families that have been coming. We have started seeing some of our people that were maybe scared to come. They've started coming back. But we changed some of our processes at the beginning of this year. And I really think I want to give credit to the Holy Spirit. It was just Holy Spirit foresight that a lot of the grants that we want to write require specific demographics and registration, if you will. And so just like Debbie was saying, you don't have to give us your information, but in order for us to continue to receive funding from other diversified sources, we're going to have their demographic information. So we've required them to come inside now to give us that information versus just being able to come and get food with a name. And so that kind of took a turn down, whether it was because people were being dishonest, whether it was a fear of coming inside and having to have a conversation with someone. So I think now that we've let the message out that, hey, it's safe to come inside. This is not going to stop. It's not if you can get food or you can't get food. We just need this information so that we can continue to receive the funding from our diversified funding sources. And that's has really helped us a lot. But it's changed the dynamics of our numbers a little bit. It's changed the dynamics of the people that we're seeing.
I just kind of wonder where those people are going to. If they're not coming to y'all because they're concerned about ICE or they're concerned about being discovered or whatever, I wonder where they're going because the need's still going to be there. And I've been in all y'all's places, and let's just say that it's a good thing if you can speak Spanish. All right, it's quite obvious. I mean, not to be tacky about it, I suppose, but I mean, I would say the majority of the people I've seen, anyway, either were elderly or Spanish, or Hispanic, and that surprised me about the elderly when I first went in there. They really did. Now, as far as Hispanic, a lot of them are working class, and they're seasonal workers, whatever else. I get it, so I have no problem with that. But I think if anybody comes to work for you, they better brush up on it, take you out of Rosetta Stone or something like that, or some other.
Know how to use a translator in Word or something. That's where I go to is Word translator. But
that's what I did at school. A whole lot. When I started getting more Hispanic speaking students, my last 3 years or so. When I was teaching at BHS, I started using a translator as best I could. Or if I were lucky, there'd be somebody in the room, a kid that could speak both, and I could say, tell them to do this or that, and it would be fine. And honestly, I had zero problem with these kids. I mean, they were behaved, and they'll do whatever you ask because they won't. They're, first of all, glad to be here, and second of all, they were told by their parents, do not rock the boat, so I had a very easy time teaching them. But
I think to pick up on Brad, your point about the types of people we're seeing in the pantry, and I'm sure it's probably roughly the same for all of us, but of course an increase in elderly or folks over 65, which really kind of scares me a bit. As we live longer, which is great, so many of these elderly headed house homes, or even if they're just elderly living alone, the vast majority of them are relying solely on that Social Security benefit. And that's not a lot of money. And most of these folks are a year or two being, priced out of their apartment or duplex or rental home if they don't own their own house. And even if they own their own home, we're seeing mostly Tarrant County folks. Tarrant County taxes are horrendous. And so, there's that challenge. I think we see, of course, a lot of single parent headed households. So a lot of young families with that single mom or single dad. We do a lot of tracking through our financial assistance program. And the vast majority of our financial assistance either goes to elderly or single parent headed households. I think in March, we served about 25 families through financial assistance. 15 of those were single parent headed households. Only 5 of them had spousal support or some sort of financial support from the other non-custodial parent. And so there's a single mom or dad who's trying to do it all on what's probably a, somewhat limited income. And then, of course, the working poor. So many people, and this is the thing I'm always kind of out there championing with our volunteers and supporters, is that these are people getting up and going to work every day, folks. They are not at home sitting on their couch, and these are hardworking individuals, which is why we see our evening pantry and our Saturday pantries numbers almost as high as our weekday pantry numbers. Those are people who've gotten off of work and come to a food pantry to feed their family. And so that just speaks to the cost of living, I think, and stagnant wages that a lot of folks experience. So when you're giving to a food pantry, it's not going to support laziness or
Absolutely.
or any of these other sort of characteristics that we deem as inappropriate. That's kind of a story that's out there, but I want to assure you that's not what's happening in probably 99% of these cases.
Well, there's always these anecdotes. Somebody heard something or read something on Facebook about somebody, pulling up in a Cadillac to go to the food bank or some garbage like that. But, and maybe there are a couple of people that con you a bit, but that's kind of the cost of doing business from what I've heard y'all over the times we've been here, is that for that one person that scams you, there's 99 that really were in need, and you're not going to, impact the 99 just to catch the one.
Right. We're going to be judged on how we treated 100% of those people.
Yes, that's good.
And whereas that one person who might be doing something nefarious out there, they're going to deal with that.
Yeah, I'd hate to deal with that one because, that just seems like to be a particularly heinous offense, because you're literally taking food off somebody else's table.
I think as it relates to food, I think I piggyback on what Elizabeth said, because as it relates to food, I don't think there's a lot of people fooling us about whether or not they're hungry. They're hungry, right? And so we give without requirement for hunger. But as it relates to the other programs, the financial assistance program and things like that, we as collectively, I think, I've worked with both of you guys. We have the same kind of guidelines and standards where we're checking to ensure that they have a plan in place, that they are either looking for a job or have a job, that they have a way to sustain themselves. If we pay for your rent this month, or we keep your electricity on this month, what is the plan for next month, and what does that look like? And so we require documents to be presented and things of that nature. And I think that I absolutely agree with what she said, that there has been an uptake in the elderly community. And you think, once you've gotten to a place where you're on Social Security or you're receiving disability, at that point, you can't change the decisions that you made in your past, right? So they're here for that. And so, that's kind of goes to the scripture verse, I think, that says the poor will always be with us. We have widows and we have, orphans and things like that. And the Bible directs us to help those people. So, there are programs that are in place for job placement and job training for people that are older that want to still work, but the majority of them can't. And they're living off $700, $800 a month. I mean, that's impossible.
And the average food stamps or SNAP that they get is going to be about $23 a month, which is up. It used to be $15, and our average was about $15. Now they've upped it to where the minimum is $23, and that's what you see for the elderly.
$23 a month. I just can't even imagine. I mean, you walk into any grocery store, that won't buy you a whole lot, will it?
Won't buy you anything.
You know?
To me, it's very sad because these are people, most of them are older, and about 57% of our clients are 53 or older. And they are not going to go back to work or not physically able to. Right. They are living solely off of Social Security. And we're seeing an increase of them asking for assistance, especially in the summer, for electric bills. So
I was going to ask about summer later in this show about summer, because I know that you have special needs in that sense because of the fact that the schools aren't providing, well, some of the schools are, but not all the schools, rather.
Right.
Not all the schools are providing lunches and breakfasts, only like maybe 2 or 3 selected per district or something like that.
Yes.
And I wonder if the USDA cuts will affect that. Very likely could, because all this comes from the ag department,
Right.
And so
I think it will, because I think it's affecting what TAFB is keeping on hand. An example is we have a senior share at Promises. Our senior share for April was last Thursday, and I think it was Monday. We've got a notification that senior share, when it was initially started, was meant to be additional produce. And they had started they started with like 12 items, and then it was down to, eventually we ended about 7. But they would add a protein. Usually there would be, if nothing else, some lunch meat or something that was added to that. And they notified us that they would no longer be adding protein of any kind to senior share, because they did not have the surplus of that protein to add into that program. So these are seniors. They have to be at least 55 years old who are coming through. And while they will get some produce, I wonder how long that's going to last, because Tarrant Area Food Bank is, they went through a program probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Took them a while to get it up and running, but Tarrant Area Food Bank, Texas, was the produce hub. Arkansas had the chicken hub, and Oklahoma had the beef club. And they would start sharing amongst themselves. I mean, they have a whole warehouse at Tarrant Area Food Bank for nothing but produce. And they would send produce to Arkansas. Arkansas would send them chicken, send some to Oklahoma. Oklahoma would send them beef in return. You stop the ability that they have to move that around, you're going to greatly affect the ability to have protein out there, the ability for others to have the produce. I don't think you can start cutting off corners and expect to still serve what you've been serving. So when we got our food on Thursday, there was not one bit of protein. There was some produce, and actually it looked pretty good, which we were excited about, but we thought, how long is this going to last till it starts affecting what you can get or what I can get?
Right.
So y'all trade amongst each other, if you need to?
Only if we need to. Sometimes we'll get a call.
We do bread.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll get a call of an 18-wheeler sitting on the side of 35.
Yeah.
Who'll have food of some sort, and he'll want to take it, but you might not be able to move it fast enough. So we do Harvest House a lot since they're so close, but we'll call and say, can you use cabbages or?
I just was wondering if you ran out of green beans. I remember who is it? It was Jennifer, I guess, was talking about how they had overstocked green beans and they would use them to trade, like barter with other places.
If you guys need green beans or corn, we have plenty. You can come get green beans and corn. We have pallets of it.
Yeah.
We just got HEB to sell us some, so we ended up pretty good with both those, but it's always temporary. I can have it stocked in the morning, and by noon, my shelves are pretty bare.
Yep.
Cindy Rutledge, who works with you, tells us at Sunday school that cereal goes off the shelf like gangbusters.
Absolutely. Cereal is one of, I would say cereal and peanut butter and macaroni and cheese for us.
And add jelly to that.
And jelly are the hardest things, other than obviously meat. Meat is always going to be number one because people don't donate meat, eggs, or fresh produce. But as it relates to the shelf-stable food, yes, cereal is so hard to keep. And
just in our pantry, we go through at least 250 boxes a week. That's in 4 days. So it goes fast.
What about you, Elizabeth? What's your big seller, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's anything and everything. You know, we're what we have moved to doing is, as donations come in, we're just going to the store and buying, which is hard because we don't have any more. Our purchasing power isn't any better than anybody else's right now, so it doesn't go very far. So we'll pick up an order from Sam's tomorrow, and it'll be enough to get us started on Wednesday. But
you're paying retail,
we're
right?
paying retail prices for it. So it's not, in my estimation, it's not the best way to steward donations, but at this point, this is the option we have. We also, made the difficult decision last week to cut back a day. So our busiest day of the week is Wednesday. It historically has always been that way. I don't know why. We get food 5 days a week, but everybody comes on Wednesday. Because of the decrease in store donations on Thursday mornings, we had barely anything. We were wiped out on Wednesday afternoon, and so we were relying on that Thursday morning food donation to kind of get us up and going, and it's just not enough. And so we struggled because we're asking people to use their resources, right, of time and gas that also, are stretched to come and maybe get 5 or 10 pounds of food. And so we're hoping we shut down on Thursdays, and we're, kind of pushing people to Monday, Wednesday, Friday when our bigger donations come in, when our biggest food supplies are there. So
as far as buying groceries, now I know that the Burleson groups bought from City Market wholesale, but they're not there anymore. And how about the other grocery stores? I remember at a time, didn't you be able to buy wholesale from H-E-B or whatever, but not anymore?
We don't get wholesale.
No.
We did, as we learned about City Market, we started trying to make some deals. Walmart has agreed to it, although we have not placed an order with them yet. H-E-B had a little bit easier ordering process, but we have placed a number of orders with H-E-B because we did the milk vouchers through City Market. We talked to them, and they are going to agree to do our summer milk, but we have to purchase them, so we will not be able to give them the choice of what kind of milk. It'll be whatever we can get through them, but they will sell that to us. But we buy about 300 loaves of bread each week through H-E-B, and we've placed several orders of canned goods, shelf-stable things. So we do have some other stores. We get donations from Walmart, Kroger, and Brookshire's, and we've just added Dollar General, and we have 4 of them up and running and have 1 more that's going to come online. But most of their will be drinks, milk, some of that. But any protein they normally have is going to be lunch meat.
Right. You have a deal like that, Amber, with some of these stores?
So we receive donations from H-E-B, from Walmart, from both actually 3 Walmarts, from the neighborhood Walmart, Crowley Walmart, and Burleson Walmart. We buy our wholesale food through a organization in Mansfield called HIM. And that is the only one that we're currently buying wholesale with right now. So it was a big loss to not be able to no longer be able to get wholesale through City Market.
Well, that's a whole story. I mean, there's a lot of details about that closing. And I guess it's just a sign of the economic times. But what kind of response do you get when you go to these stores? They're like, "What the heck do you want now?" Or like, "Oh, what can we do to help?" What is it?
They're not.
We've gotten some really good responses.
Yeah.
But we've had a few that we've gone to, and they say, "We already donate as much as we can."
And so
to
beat
somebody
it.
else.
Yeah, beat it.
H-E-B has been incredible. H-E-B is a huge sponsor. And they're very supportive. Cheyenne, that's over there now, she's incredible. We also receive donations from commissary. So we go out to the Joint Reserve Base, and we receive all of their donations from the commissary. So
that's why I do most of my shop at H-E-B, because it's not just because I like it, but also because I know what kind of community citizen they are. So I guess if that's their goal, they've done it with me because when I was a teacher, I had many students that worked for them, and there was one of the few employers that high school kids actually were, positive about. They always complain about their managers, but they liked HEB. They liked working for them. So that's always a good sign. But I just wondered if you're dealing with, somebody that probably gets a lot of these requests. I wonder if they get a little bit jaded after a while, like, let's take a number, I'll call you later, or they're always like, what can we do?
I think for the most part, in our experience, it's been what can we do?
Yeah.
But there then is limitations in that.
Yes.
So after you start talking a little bit, I think the reason that those now become so important, in my opinion, is because Tarrant Area Food Bank, if they open up their ordering program at 7 a.m., by 7:05, most everything is claimed. And so there's nothing there. They did change it to where you can add to the order after you place it, which helps a little bit. But the reality is my ability to get from Tarrant Area Food Bank is become a narrow window to me, where if I'm not on it or my warehouse person is out that day or driving the truck at 7 a.m., whatever, it limits what you're going to get. And now I need to buy it because I can't wait another week. My shelves are already empty. So I'm having to then tag on to somebody or ask them, can you help me get this food?
Well, as far as individuals, okay, we talked about the food bank and organizations, but individuals is what makes y'all's groups work, both financially and otherwise. Because I've heard over and over from y'all and other like groups that it's that monthly donation that y'all budget on and make a big deal about, and it's always good. But it's also, it just seems like there's more and more going to be placed upon individual donors. I know that, because of this experience I've had with y'all on this show, my wife and I have been a lot more conscious of donations and such because, it's easy to just kind of go about your business and you don't really know what's going on, or you don't know, well, that's their problem, or, I'll take care of it later, that kind of thing. But because of the show, the blessing I've gotten out of it is I've become much more aware of what's going on with these things. And Rob and I felt like we needed to do more. But the community is going to have to pick up a little bit of the slack. That's the only way to say it, because if the government's going to cut back, where's it going to come from?
Right.
So I want to speak to that for just a minute, because this is one of the things that I've talked about when I've spoken to the Rotary and to the Lions Club. And I think it's important because there's a lot of pride in Burleson. We have an amazing community. If we want to keep that community that way, the community is continuing to grow. So the statistics are solid that people who are desperate do desperate things. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs speaks to, if you don't have food, clothing, shelter, and safety, then you don't have the ability to have the mental capacity to do the next right thing, which is look for a job, or, people that commit crime and things. It's all directly related back to the lack of the basic life necessities. So if the community that prides itself in the amazing community that we have is going to have to step up, or we're going to see a Lancaster Street, we're going to see increased crime, we're going to see the things that we are so prideful on that we don't have. It's going to require the community to step up and to support every nonprofit. Pick one that you're passionate about. Give a little bit to each one of them. But we have phenomenal nonprofits, and in order for us to continue working with this growth and with these cutbacks and things like that, it's going to take the community stepping up, or they're no longer going to have the community the way it is right now. Exactly. It's not going to stay that way without work.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree, because I have talked to one or two cranks that said, the more generous we are, the more we'll attract people needing things. I'm like, well, that's a terrible reputation to have, that we're a town that gives to its needy. What a terrible thing to be known for, But most people I know are like appreciative. Mm-hmm. I hope they're show it, financially and otherwise, but they're appreciative of the fact that they have not just y'all, but also these other organizations that tend to the various areas that y'all do, because a lot of communities don't, or they either, I've tried to reach out to a couple other of our fellow Johnson County communities and see about getting them on the show, and they don't really have the organizational situation that y'all do. Y'all seem to have a pretty solid organizational plan and it runs pretty well and all this, as opposed to just some more haphazard. And so there you go. Now, Elizabeth, you're not being technically, you're being in Crowley, but you're really close to Burleson. And, is Crowley also, would you consider them to be pretty supportive of your group?
Absolutely, yes. I mean,
it's much smaller than Burleson.
It's much smaller than Burleson.
Yeah.
We do serve a lot of people living within the 7 square miles of the city of Crowley. But yes, the city staff here is very supportive. Lots of great community groups. We've got several congregations here working on some food drives for us. So, absolutely couldn't do without them.
Well, you have something coming up this Saturday. Let's talk about that.
We do. So we're just trying to make it easy for folks to make that food donation. So we will be open in the food pantry. That's the blue building if you're here in Crowley on the corner of North Mustang and North Magnolia. Pull around to the back.
Just go to the big building by the railroad
That's
tracks.
right. Pull around to the back, pop your trunk, and we'll unload your donation. And so we'll be down there from 10 to noon accepting food. And, just again, trying to make it easy for you, run by the grocery store, pick up that.
That's a thing about it is that's how Robin and I approach it. It's like, we've been blessed, and we're not buying blessings, we're repaying blessings is the way we look at it. And it's like a few extra groceries. It adds a few bucks to the bill. But if a lot of people do that, it's really not that big a sacrifice at all.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's not, it really isn't. It's like, okay, I buy 2 or 3 extra boxes of cereal or extra 2 or 3 containers of peanut butter, and my bill goes up $8 or whatever. So I'm not going to miss it. It's just money I didn't fritter away on something useless, So do you have any other slides? Did you have another one?
Well, the other thing I guess I would say is if you've not visited a food pantry, if you have questions, come see us. I'm sure Amber would welcome that. I'm sure Debbie would welcome that. We have a lunch and learn quarterly. The next one's May 13th. Come see what we're doing. Ask your questions. I don't shy away from the hard conversations. I think they're important and I think they're valid. But come have a little bite to eat on us and come see what we're doing and learn a little bit more. It will open your eyes.
Well, maybe you ought to give them a lunch that you give to the kids, and they can see. Whoa, is this it?
Yeah.
Well, I remember this isn't the first time we've gone down this road with the USDA. I remember other budget cuts, and I thought a very effective promotion, shall we say, about these cuts. What they were doing, they served some of the congressmen who with the lunch that they were now providing, and it was basically. Well, ketchup is a vegetable, you said, and it's like very meager lunch and whatever. So maybe that might be a good thing to serve them, instead of like something really decent. Here's a quarter of a sandwich. That's what these kids get.
Right.
There's something called the Poverty Simulator. Have y'all heard of the Poverty Simulator? Have you ever heard of it, Brad?
No.
Oh, well, it's a company, an organization that comes and they walk key level executives and people in the city through a simulation. Like they have to make choices, and based upon their choices, like if you don't have a ride, do you have money for Uber? Then you're going to have to catch public transportation. And then if you need to take your child sick, well, how are you going to get to work? And it walks them through all the different obstacles and challenges that people in poverty face. And almost every one of them fails it.
Oh, sure. I mean, most
They're not
of them,
able to navigate it.
I wouldn't be able to. I mean, honestly, I would know. The only reason I wouldn't know who to call now is because of y'all and doing this show. I bet I wouldn't, if I were just some average citizen out there, I'd be kind of lost. You'll probably get that, right? People, that's what the city has with that victims assistance program. They'll tell you that the majority of their calls are not about, some assault thing going on, or some other serious crime. It's mostly people new to the community that don't know where to turn when they need, some sort of assistance. When I have Colin Gregory on here, Stephanie Beard's on here a couple of times, they'll say they deal a lot with that as opposed to what people think that victims assistance program is about. But that's interesting. Now, you have something coming up, a big thing coming up, right, Amber?
We do. We have Vineyard Vibes coming up on April the 27th. It's at Lost Oak Winery. It's from 12 to 7. It's a full day of music. We have a number of different dance academies that are coming. We've got vendors. We've got food trucks. It is, and it's all a fundraiser. It is brought to you by the city of Burleson, and it's sponsored by HEB.
Well, that's good. I was there last year, and had Susie Morgan and doing the singing. She's well known in this area, and
Yes.
and it was a lot of fun. It was a very relaxing afternoon. It wasn't like high pressure. It was no, it was very friendly atmosphere. I really enjoyed it, so I'll be there as
It's
well.
very relaxing.
Is there tickets involved?
There are tickets involved. If you go to vineyardvibesbtx.com, I don't think they can scan that QR code.
Well,
They might be able to.
They
Maybe
can. Yeah, they can, but
they're holding
they do it on your website.
Or you can go to yourharvesthouse.org. Either one of those will lead you to the place that you buy tickets. Tickets ahead of time are $25, and tickets at the door are $30.
Well, okay, so you're better off buying them ahead of time.
Yes, you are.
Do you want them to bring anything?
Like if you have general admission tickets, then you can bring lawn chairs, blankets.
Well, I mean groceries.
Oh no, we're not doing a food drive there that day.
Okay.
I mean, we'll accept them if they want to bring them,
Okay.
but yes, that's not. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll turn it into a food drive right now.
Yeah, well,
Bring groceries.
I just wondered if you say, hey, bring a sack of groceries with you while you're at it. You know.
That'd be awesome. Bring
Yeah.
a sack of groceries.
Now, Debbie, your financing is a little different because our church, we both go to the same church. That's a primary financer, right?
Correct.
Are we doing our share, or do our brothers and sisters need to pick up their game?
Well, our church is extremely generous. And,
Well, you guys are going to say, "Oh, they're a bunch of deadbeats," No,
I would never say that. They are very, very generous, and we appreciate that. The reality is we are spending more. I'm almost at 200% of a food budget because of the raise in cost. So, like them, I need to get money for that. I'm not broke. My wallet's not empty, but it could be if we don't continue to raise that up to meet the needs of the day, so to speak. So I am extremely grateful because First Burleson is very, very generous. But we always need more, and especially right now, we've adjusted some of our financial aid to care for the rise in the food costs.
Yeah, well, like our friend Cindy Rutledge tells us every Sunday, we get like a promises report. Also, Bob Westmoreland's there in our Sunday school class, and James Chambers, Diane Chambers. And so we get a pretty good understanding of what's going on, and they'll tell us, hey, it's time to, bust open the piggy bank sometimes, because, that's the thing is, I've said this before on all y'all shows, is that some people say, well, I'd love to give like thousands of dollars or whatever, and be that guy. But most of us aren't that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Josh did find the
Good job,
promo
Josh.
logo. How about that? See, that's why he gets the big money, which he's now donating his whole day salary to y'all. Yeah, he didn't know what to say. And he's like, no, he's probably going to be one of your clients, probably. So, anyway,
All right, no comment.
We have those traditional things, peanut butter, cereal. Those are standard things. A lot because those are things that children could fix for themselves while parents are working. But it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe your Sunday school class or life group wants to get together and donate shampoo. We haven't had any significant toiletries for probably at least 20 months because we put our money to food instead of the toiletries. But if I'm going looking for a job, I need some toiletries.
yeah, that's exactly right. I didn't even think about that as much.
We can tell they need toiletries when they walk in. But we have a class at church that the ladies decided there was a birthday or something that was coming up, and they decided they would do a cake. And so now every month on the first Monday of the month, I'm going to have one of our gentlemen, Dr. Mullen, who will come in.
Oh, Steve Mullen. Yeah, he's my good friend. Yes.
He will be bringing in cake mixes and a jar of
I know which
icing.
class it is then. Yeah.
And that's a couple of bucks.
That's
Maybe two if they get it right. But our clients, we just offer it up to them. They can get a box cake and a icing, That's something they don't get to do much, and they love it.
I bet the emotional response to some of those mothers is touching.
Totally.
Because they could do something for their little kid that they didn't think they could. I mean,
Exactly.
something as mundane as we would think.
Exactly.
Birthday cake.
So
Oh, my goodness.
I think that, it doesn't really matter what it is. There are things that our clientele don't get on a regular basis that when they can get it, even if it's not every single one, those who are getting it are feeling, value and some form of dignity.
Well, as we come to close the show, why don't we go around the table and give us in the community your wish list? Now, I know, Amber, what your wish list would include is no more dumping of your furniture on our place.
That is absolutely correct. And I think that I hope the community understands that we appreciate all your donations, but that costs us. I want to give a really quick shout out to Wheeler's Painting and Renovations. They came and responded to our last two Facebook posts that we had illegal dumping, and they came and loaded up their truck and took those things free of charge for us. But I think that the community doesn't understand that when someone dumps that, it costs us.
Yes.
It goes against the mission. It goes against being able to buy the food and support our clients. And so it's just very awful.
Well, and Otto will catch you on his camera,
He sure
by
will.
the way, guys.
He sure will.
And, he knows people, all right? So, but as far as the pantries, I guess we can go around the table, food-wise, whatnot. I know you need money for the finance. That's obvious. But food-wise, if you could tell the people what y'all would really need, particularly with summer coming. We'll be talking about this again. I'd like to have y'all on the show again during the summer. We can talk about all this, but what would you want, Amber?
Cereal, peanut butter, jelly, and macaroni and cheese, and canned meats.
Canned meats. Mm-hmm. Tuna and chicken?
Tuna, chicken, whatever you want. Anything, any canned meat.
And Debbie, you're shaking your head like absolutely an amen, huh?
Ditto.
Yeah, ditto. Same thing.
Those are the
Elizabeth?
items. Yeah, absolutely.
Cereal, that surprised me a little bit, but I guess it shouldn't because that's easy to make for a kid, right?
Yeah.
Cereal, peanut butter, bread, jelly, canned meat, macaroni, and cheese. How about produce?
Produce is always nice. Any kind of fresh food is always nice. Fresh food, eggs, milk, those things are not generally donated.
Yeah.
They're also not shelf stable though. So if you donate them, make sure that we can't give away expired milk. Now don't always have to follow the best by dates on shelf stable food, but as it relates to milk and eggs and produce and things like that. So, but yes, our clients love those and appreciate that. You think most food pantries are giving you shelf stable food. So any produce, anything that's dairy related, they appreciate it so much.
Well, I know that when I do the first Monday of the month, it's Rob and I do it, and I bring in some produce. I could hear y'all's excitement.
Yes.
And and I'm thinking, it just, for me, it's a bag of onions, but for y'all, it must be a pretty big deal. It must go pretty quick, huh?
Yeah.
And you were telling me how cereal goes, and you too, Elizabeth?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say, anything you buy for your family, these folks are the same, right? If you're picking up a bag of dried pasta, go ahead and grab that jar or bottle of pasta sauce, right? Help us help families make meals and do things like that. The other thing that you can do is it's so simple as all of us are probably pretty active on social media. I'm always out there like, just share my post. Right. We never know who that might reach.
You got that right.
And so if you can't do anything else, that's free and doesn't take but just a second. Go ahead and just share that with your circle of influence and see what happens.
Well, Josh, if you would put up the journey right now, y'all all know this gentleman, I'm sure, Rich Hooper, or 88.3 The Journey. They're doing their pledge drive this week. And he's also promoting my shows on his show in the morning. He doesn't play the show, he just promotes them. So I don't want people to be misunderstanding, but he'll talk about, hey, this is what's going on in Mr. Allard's neighborhood this week, and he's promoting this show as well. So hopefully his listeners will hear this word, or they'll come to this podcast or to the radio station later and hear what's going on. But he got really excited when I said, we're going to have these guests on. He really enjoys being able to promote y'all, maybe not so much me being cranky about the tariff or whatever, but y'all on the food bank.
I'm actually going to participate in their spring telethon this week.
Yeah, so I was offered that too. I just couldn't fit it in my schedule. Not that I'm really that busy. But it's going to be fun. But tonight, this show will be on tomorrow night on community radio, which is on Live 365, Odyssey, and TuneIn. It'll be on tomorrow night at 6 and Wednesday at 1. So that hopefully people that are driving around or whatever else, and they tune into this, they could hear it. That's the whole point of it, I hope. And besides, it has good music from our generation. So there you go. Amber, you may be too young, I'm afraid. So no new kids on the block or nothing like that.
Oh,
So.
I look like a new kids on the block type of girl. Huh?
But anyway, no, it's 60s, 80s, stuff like that. Anyway, but it's going to be on tomorrow night at 6 and Wednesday at 1. Thank you, Josh, for everything you've done.
Yes,
Yeah, of
thank
course.
you, Josh. We appreciate you.
He got you all set up, got all the slides. That's why he gets the big dough. And that's, so Taylor, what is Taylor doing anyway these days?
No idea.
No idea either. Okay.
He's sleeping in.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it must be nice.
Yeah. Tomorrow I have Victoria Johnson. We're going to talk about some bills down in Austin that can impact a lot of things, property taxes, et cetera. And also what's going on in Hidden Creek. I mean, now they're starting to fix it, and it's inconveniencing me. So anyway, thank y'all for what you do, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely.
No problem. And it's my honor. And this is what the show is about. All right. And we will see y'all either here or on the radio. Take care, y'all.
Bye-bye.